Hello. You ever watch your entire life turn into a bad soap opera, except you're not even the main character, you're just the idiot in the background who didn't see it coming? Yeah, that was me. But don't worry, I didn't cry about it. Instead, I turned their betrayal into a masterpiece of poetic justice, and let's just say, no one saw the final twist coming. I had what most people would call a stable, predictable life. A good career in finance, a suburban house with a mortgage I actually kept up with, and a wife I'd been with for almost 8 years. Her name was Olivia, and for most of our marriage, I would have bet my last dollar that we were solid. It wasn't some fairy tale romance, but it was real. We had routines, inside jokes, and enough shared history to make me think we were built to last. That's the thing about trust. You never really know how much of it is blind until it's too late. My older brother, Ryan, was the cool one growing up. If there was ever a person who could charm his way out of a burning building, it was him. Women loved him, bosses adored him, and even when he completely tanked his first marriage, he somehow came out of it looking like the victim. Me? I was the responsible one. The guy who got good grades, paid his bills on time, and, ironically enough, never saw betrayal coming even when it was staring me dead in the face. For a long time, I just thought Olivia and Ryan got along because, well, why wouldn't they? She was close with my family, and Ryan had this easy way of making everyone like him. He was the type of guy who could borrow $500 from you, forget to pay it back, and still convince you it was your fault for reminding him. That was Ryan. And that was my first mistake, not realizing what a mistake it was to let him so deep into our lives. Looking back, I can't even pinpoint when it started. The long glances? The inside jokes that didn't involve me? The way Olivia started laughing at his dumbest comments like he was some sort of comedic genius? Maybe I was blind, or maybe I just didn't want to believe it. Because when I finally found out, it wasn't through a dramatic confession or some big fight. It was something much, much worse. It was in my own house. And I wasn't even supposed to be there. You ever get that gut feeling that something's off, but you're too busy convincing yourself you're paranoid to actually listen to it? Yeah, that was me. I had all the warning signs flashing in front of me like a neon billboard, but instead of paying attention, I just dimmed the lights and kept on driving. I should have noticed how Olivia's habits changed. She used to be the type to fall asleep on the couch watching Netflix with me, tucked under my arm like some kind of rom-com cliché. But then, suddenly, she had energy at night. Staying up late to read, always taking her phone with her when she went to the bathroom, locking it like it contained state secrets. Her gym routine got suspiciously aggressive, too. Olivia never cared much for working out, but now she was hitting the gym 5 days a week, coming back looking a little too put together for someone who had just sweated her ass off. I asked her once what had changed, and she just smiled and said, "Self-improvement, babe." Self-improvement, my ass. And Ryan? He started showing up more. At first, it seemed harmless. He dropped by for a beer, crack some jokes, act like the fun uncle to our dog. But it started to feel like he was always there. If I came home late, he'd already be in my living room with Olivia, laughing about something that apparently wasn't funny enough for me to be in on. He was helping her fix something, keeping her company, or some other excuse that, at the time, didn't feel like a red flag. Just a casual, yeah, sure, my brother's hanging out at my house more often than necessary. No big deal. You know what's worse than getting cheated on? Realizing you were the dumbass funding the entire operation. I was paying the mortgage on the house where they fooled around. I was paying the bills for the utilities they used while sneaking around behind my back. I was the idiot who thought I had a wife and a brother who respected me when, in reality, I was the punchline to a joke I didn't even know existed. But like I said, I didn't find out in some dramatic way. No catching them in the act, no suspicious text messages, no anonymous tip from a friend. Nope. It was a Tuesday. Just a completely normal, unremarkable Tuesday. I was supposed to be at work all day, stuck in some god-awful meeting with a client who had the personality of a wet sock. But as luck would have it, the meeting got rescheduled. I decided to head home early, maybe surprise Olivia, grab lunch together, one of those sweet, husband-of-the-year moves. I walked into my own damn house and immediately knew something was wrong. It wasn't dramatic. There wasn't a pile of clothes on the floor or some ridiculous scene from a bad movie. No, it was the little things. The faint smell of my brother's cologne, because of course, he had some obnoxiously strong, overpriced brand that made him smell like he bathed in desperation. Olivia's favorite throw blanket, one she only used when she was getting cozy, was crumpled on the couch. A half-drunk glass of wine sat next to hers, the lip of it still smudged. And then I heard it. The low murmur of voices coming from upstairs. I didn't even react at first. I just stood there, my brain running every possible excuse. Maybe Ryan was helping Olivia with something. Maybe he had a work thing nearby and just stopped in to say hi. Maybe. Then I heard the laugh. Her laugh. And suddenly, it all clicked into place. I wish I could say I stormed up the stairs, kicked the door down, and turned into an action hero. But I didn't. I just stood there, gripping the doorknob so hard my knuckles went white, staring at the thin layer of wood that separated me from the truth. And then, instead of barging in, instead of making a scene, I let go of the doorknob. I walked out. I left. Because at that moment, I realized something. Confrontation wasn't the answer. Revenge was. And if they thought they were getting away with it, they had no idea what was coming. You ever get that moment of crystal clear rage? Not the kind where you yell or punch a wall. That's rookie behavior. I mean the kind of anger that settles into your bones like a slow burning fire. The kind that makes you cold, calculating. The kind that tells you, you don't just react. You plan. That was me, standing outside my own house, gripping my car keys so tightly the metal left little crescent-shaped marks in my palm. I sat in my car for an hour. Didn't turn it on, didn't move. Just sat there, running through my options. 1,000 different ways I could handle this. I could storm back in there and beat the hell out of Ryan, but what would that get me? A broken hand and a domestic violence charge? No thanks. I could throw Olivia out on the spot, but that was too easy. No. If they wanted to play games behind my back, I was going to write the rulebook. I started with information. A war isn't one with brute force, it's one with intelligence. And lucky for me, I was a numbers guy. I dealt with details for a living. I knew Olivia's schedule better than she did. I knew Ryan's patterns, the places he went, the stupid habits he had that he thought made him cool but really just made him predictable. The next day, I acted normal. Kissed Olivia goodbye in the morning, went to work, even sent Ryan a text about catching up soon, because nothing keeps people feeling safe like the illusion that they're getting away with something. Meanwhile, I got busy. Pulled up Olivia's phone records from our shared account. Checked bank statements. Started piecing together the puzzle. It was almost laughable how sloppy they were. Restaurant bills at places I'd never been to. Hotel charges that made me wonder just how much Olivia had been improving herself. My personal favorite? A jewelry store purchase. A bracelet. Not for me, of course. No, that particular little gift had been charged to our joint credit card. She was using our money to buy gifts for my brother. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't just going to win. I was going to ruin them. Step one was making sure they felt comfortable. I let them keep sneaking around, let them think they were pulling one over on me. Meanwhile, I started making quiet little moves. I transferred funds. Small amounts at first, just enough to go unnoticed, slowly bleeding our joint accounts into my private one. Closed a few accounts in Olivia's name, the one she never paid attention to. Then, I got real creative. See, Ryan had a bit of a history, one that our family conveniently forgot every time he reinvented himself. A few bad investments, a couple of shady business deals. Nothing that landed him in real trouble, but enough that his financials weren't exactly clean. And me? I had access to just enough of his personal information to tip the scales. I spent a few nights crafting an email. Nothing crazy, just a few anonymous concerns sent to the right people. His employer. A few business associates. A little nudge to an IRS tip line, just in case they wanted to take a closer look at some of those less than official write-offs. By the time I was done, Ryan's life was a house of cards and a wind tunnel. But that was just the beginning. See, I wasn't just out to expose them. I wanted to make sure that by the time I was done, they turned on each other. And nothing destroys trust faster than the right kind of doubt. So, I left a few breadcrumbs. A lipstick stain on one of Ryan's shirts that wasn't Olivia's shade, an easy fix with a cheap drugstore tube. A crumpled receipt in his car for flowers he never actually bought. Oh, and the best one? I called Olivia from a burner phone, disguised my voice, and left a very concerned voicemail about Ryan's other woman. It was a slow burn. A few passive-aggressive texts from Olivia to Ryan. Some snippy comments. The first cracks in their perfect little secret. And as they started to unravel, I planned my grand finale. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to make sure they destroyed themselves. And when the time came, I'd be sitting back with a drink in my hand, watching the whole thing burn. You ever hear the sound of a train wreck before it happens? That slow, sickening build-up of metal grinding, gears screeching, something massive hurling toward disaster at full speed? That's what it felt like watching my plan unfold. The best part? Neither Olivia nor Ryan had any clue that I was the one pulling the levers. By the time I was done planting doubts, their relationship had developed hairline fractures. The kind that start as whispers but grow into something much, much louder. Olivia wasn't as giddy when Ryan came over anymore. She started keeping her phone even closer, checking it constantly, paranoia leaking through her casual facade. Ryan, always the cocky bastard, started getting irritable, snappier than usual. It was almost poetic, watching them tiptoe around each other, trying to act like everything was fine while knowing something was off. And then came the night I decided to light the match. I set the stage perfectly. A dinner. One of those family gatherings Olivia insisted on having because she liked pretending we were still some happy, functional couple. Just a few friends, some of her co-workers, my parents. And of course, Ryan. I spent the day acting normal. I grilled steaks, poured drinks, smiled at my wife like I hadn't spent the last 2 months orchestrating her downfall. I watched her closely, the way she fidgeted with her necklace, the way she avoided looking at Ryan too much, the way Ryan was glued to his phone, probably checking if his life was unraveling faster than he could piece it together. Halfway through dinner, I made my move. I cleared my throat, got everyone's attention. I just want to say how grateful I am for all of you. I started, giving Olivia a long, meaningful look. She smiled awkwardly, probably assuming I was about to say something romantic, something loving. Instead, I reached under the table and pulled out a small box. A jewelry box. The same one she'd bought a bracelet from. For my brother. I placed it in front of her. Watched her expression flicker between confusion and pure, undiluted fear. Go ahead, I said. Open it. She hesitated. I saw her eyes dart to Ryan. Saw his fingers tighten around his fork. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. Olivia's hands shook as she undid the ribbon, opened the lid, and there it was. Not the bracelet, of course. No, I had something better. Inside the box, neatly folded, was a printed stack of emails. A conversation between Ryan and another woman. A woman that wasn't Olivia. Romantic messages. Hotel bookings. Explicit plans. The kind of proof that obliterates trust in an instant. I wish I could describe the exact moment Olivia's face cracked. The realization. The horror. The slow, terrible understanding that the man she had thrown everything away for had been doing the exact same thing to her. I leaned back in my chair, sipped my whiskey, and watched. She turned on Ryan so fast it was almost funny. Are you kidding me? Are you actually cheating on me? Ryan was caught. There was no way out of this. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a fish gasping for air. Oh, Olivia, I cut him off. Don't worry, bro, I said smoothly. I already forwarded everything to your actual girlfriend. She should be getting it, right about now. As if on cue, his phone buzzed violently on the table. Olivia lunged for it, grabbed it before he could react, and saw the message. Saw the screenshots. Saw the complete and utter destruction of everything she thought she had. And that was my cue to leave. I stood up, stretched, and tossed my napkin on the table. I'll leave you two to work this out, I said cheerfully. Oh, and Olivia, don't bother coming home tonight. The locks will be changed. I walked out the front door to the sound of screaming, breaking glass, and absolute chaos. And I didn't look back. If you've ever thrown a grenade into a small room and watched the explosion rip through everything in sight, figuratively speaking, of course, then you might have an idea of what I walked back into later that night. See, I had planned on just leaving them to stew in their own self-inflicted disaster, but curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see it. I wanted to witness the train wreck with my own eyes. So, after a few drinks at a bar nearby, I decided to swing back around. Not to fix anything, but to enjoy the fire. The moment I stepped into the house, I knew I had made the right call. The dining room looked like it had been the scene of an absolute war. The table was askew, one of the wine glasses shattered on the floor. Olivia's makeup was streaked down her face, her eyes red-rimmed from crying or fury. Ryan, my oh-so-charming brother, stood in the corner, rubbing the bridge of his nose like he had a headache. He was still trying to control the situation, still trying to weasel his way out of it. Ah, great, I said, closing the door behind me. I see you two are having a productive conversation. Olivia whipped around to face me. If looks could kill, I'd be 6 feet under. You knew about this? She seethed, her voice shaking. You planned this. I shrugged. walking toward the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. Knew about it? Oh, honey, I've known for months. Planned this? Well, that was just me making sure you got what you deserved. She looked like she wanted to throw something at me. Honestly, I kind of hoped she would. You're insane, she spat, her voice rising. You ruined everything. I let out a short laugh. I ruined everything? Olivia, you were sneaking around with my brother. You were spending our money on him. You were lying to my face every single day. And yet, somehow, I'm the bad guy here. Ryan finally spoke up, his voice all low and serious, trying to smooth things over. Look, man, I get that you're angry, but I cut him off so fast his mouth was still hanging open. No, you don't get to talk, Ryan. You don't get to act like some misunderstood victim. You knew what you were doing, and you did it anyway. And for what? Some cheap thrill. His jaw clenched, but he didn't say anything. What could he say? There was no excuse. No justification. He was just a man caught with his hand in the cookie jar, only to realize the cookie jar was full of wasps. Olivia started pacing, muttering under her breath, then spun around again, her face twisted in rage. You're just a pathetic, vindictive man who can't handle rejection. That's why you did all this, isn't it? Because you couldn't stand the thought of me leaving you. I laughed again, genuinely amused this time. Leaving me? Oh, that's cute. Olivia, you weren't planning to leave. You were planning to keep both, to have your little affair while still living off of me. You were waiting for me to find out so you could play the victim, spin some story about how our marriage wasn't working, and you just happened to fall in love with someone else. Tell me, was that your big plan? Her lips pressed together into a thin line, her silence saying everything. Ryan stepped forward, hands up like he was some kind of peace negotiator. All right, let's just... I took a step toward him, and he instantly backed up. Good. He should be scared. You don't get to... All right, your way out of this, I said, voice low and steady. You stole from me, you betrayed me, and worst of all, you weren't even smart about it. Ryan's face twisted in frustration. Okay, fine. Yes, I messed up. But let's not pretend you're some innocent guy in all this. You set us up. You went out of your way to make us suffer. I smiled, slow and deliberate. And silence. Because there was nothing else to say. Nothing he could throw back at me that would make him look like anything less than what he was, a snake who finally got caught in his own lies. Olivia let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. What now then? I set my water down and sighed dramatically. Well, Olivia, you can start packing. This house? It's mine. Fully. Because while you were too busy sneaking around, I had a lawyer handling the real business. And Ryan? Good luck explaining all this to your girlfriend. Oh, and the IRS. Ryan's face drained of color. What do you mean, the IRS? I grinned. Oh, you'll see soon enough. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out. Behind me, Olivia's voice cracked with a scream of rage, something shattered against the wall, and Ryan cursed under his breath. But me? I just smiled. Because this was the moment I had been waiting for. Some people think revenge is about screaming matches, dramatic confrontations, throwing fists, or breaking things. But that's just theatrics. The real, satisfying kind of revenge? It's slow, precise, and most importantly, final. I left Olivia and Ryan to their little disaster that night, but I wasn't done yet. Not even close. See, while Olivia was busy packing up her things and Ryan was probably still trying to figure out what I meant by good luck with the IRS, I had one last move to play. Something that would ensure that neither of them would ever recover from this completely. The next morning, I was up early, feeling unbelievably refreshed for someone who had just burned his entire marriage to the ground. There's something about watching the people who betrayed you suffer that really clears the mind. By noon, Olivia had finally left the house, stuffing her things into a couple of suitcases and slamming the door like she was the victim here. I just watched from the kitchen window, sipping my coffee as she struggled to shove a suitcase into the back seat of her car. I didn't help. Not my problem anymore. Ryan? He was in full damage control mode. I knew because I got a text from my mother that afternoon. Mom, Ryan just called me. He said you set him up. I stared at the message for a moment, shaking my head. Set him up? What a joke. I just let him bury himself in the mess he created. I replied, short and sweet. Did he tell you he was sleeping with Olivia? No response for about 15 minutes. Then, Mom, he wouldn't do that. Oh, denial. The first stage of realization. Me, check your email. See, I had anticipated this. I knew Ryan would go running to our parents, spinning some sob story about how his evil little brother ruined his life. Which is why, at the same time I was exposing him to Olivia, I also scheduled an email to go out to everyone in our immediate family. And in that email? Well, let's just say I attached everything. Screenshots of texts, the hotel receipts, even a nice little compilation of messages between him and Olivia, just to really paint the picture. The fallout was immediate. Ryan called me 5 minutes later, probably expecting me to pick up and hear him out. I let it ring. Then he called again. And again. Desperate. Panicked. Then I got a text. Ryan, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? You ruined my life. I smiled. Me? No, brother. You ruined your life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. After that, I turned my phone off for a while. Let him stew in it. But I wasn't done yet. Oh no. See, Olivia had no idea that I'd been handling the real business behind the scenes. She thought she was just losing her husband, her home, and maybe a little bit of dignity. What she didn't realize was that she was about to lose a whole lot more. Because remember those little financial adjustments I'd been making? I'd been systematically pulling every dollar out of our joint accounts, draining them bit by bit, and moving them into my personal, separate accounts. The credit cards? All canceled. The lease on her car? Transferred to her name alone. And the house? Well, thanks to a little legal maneuvering, it was exclusively mine. She had nothing. No home. No financial security. No backup plan. And Ryan? He was about to have an even bigger problem. See, I wasn't bluffing about the IRS. Ryan had always been a little reckless with money. Business ventures that never quite took off. Tax filings that were questionable at best. And all it took was one anonymous tip to the right government agency to make sure his books got a very thorough audit. A week later, Ryan lost his job. Turns out, when you work in finance and suddenly have a fraud investigation hovering over you, employers aren't exactly keen on keeping you around. Olivia? She tried reaching out to me. First with a "we need to talk" text. Then a voicemail, all teary, and "I made a mistake. Please let's fix this." I deleted them without listening. The last I heard, Olivia was living in a rented apartment, working some low-level admin job to keep herself afloat. Ryan, on the other hand, moved back in with our parents for a while, until they got tired of his excuses and kicked him out. And me? I thrived. I sold the house for a nice profit, moved to a better city, and moved on. No emotional baggage, no regret. Just the deep, satisfying knowledge that justice had been served. So yeah, Olivia and Ryan thought they were being smart, sneaking around behind my back. But in the end, I played the better game. And I won. Bye-bye.